The Wall Street Shuffle on CNN 1190, the best financial reality show in the known universe.
Very nice. Cindy here in with Dan Cofall and Bill Ayers on the phone, rejoining right now. How you guys doing?
All right, Cindy.
You know, I was wondering if Bill can answer a question, or either one of you. If someone is anti-war, why are they not a patriot?
Well, I don't agree with that. I think
I don't either.
People who are anti-war are often the biggest patriots. What we're not is nationalists, and a nationalist is not the same as a patriot. A nationalist says, my country, right or wrong. A patriot says, I want my country to live up to its ideals. Yes, definitely.
And yet, portrayed, the people who are not supportive of military action frequently are painted as unpatriotic.
Well, it's by some people and sometimes, but the fact is that during the Vietnam War and currently today, in many ways the leading anti-war forces are within the military. They come within the military. So veterans groups there's a very spirited group of Iraq veterans against the war in Chicago and in many other cities. During Vietnam, it was the soldiers who turned the country against the war more than any other single factor. It was vets coming home and telling the truth. And if you reread the history of that conflict through the papers that were written at the time, the overwhelming turning of the country against the war happened in 67, 68. And by 68, a majority of the people opposed the war. What was that? How did that happen in 3 short years? In part because kids came home and told the truth.
Right. And now we have television that brings it right into your living room.
No, not so much, because the television that we get here is actually quite censored. We don't see pictures of what's going on. Right. We see a very embedded kind of notion of what journalism is. And people are not, they made a decision in 1975 that no American reporter would be allowed to be free on an American battlefield. And there hasn't been one since 1975. I don't know why the press isn't in an absolutely full-scale uproar about that.
Well,
we have little skirmishes about, can you show caskets? You mean war results in death? Wow.
Yeah. Dan,
Let me ask you this, Bill. Some of the actions that the Weather Underground took back in the 60s. A lot of people were incarcerated for that. You managed to somehow avoid incarceration after you kind of reemerged in 1980. Talk to us a little bit about how that happens. I think a lot of people on the right that read about you say, well, gee whiz, why did he not ever serve time for what happened?
Well, because there weren't a lot of people from the Weather Underground put in jail. No, that's not true. Most of us were not. And the reason is that the only charges against us were 2 federal indictments that were dropped by the federal government because they felt they couldn't get a conviction. So, by the time I surfaced, by the time I came up from underground, I had no charges against me. So it's hard to know what people think I ought to have been put in prison for. I didn't have any charges.
Well, so, a good friend of yours, Kathy Boudin, was incarcerated. And I understand that you ended up raising her son, Chessa. Let's talk a little bit about you raised Kathy's son. How did that all come about?
She wasn't put in prison for being in the Weather Underground.
What happened?
She was arrested and charged in a Brinks robbery in Nyack, New York. She pled guilty to felony murder, and she did 22 years in jail. So that's an actual crime that she actually pled guilty to. And she actually served her sentence. She was given a sentence of 20 years to life. She did 22 years in and was paroled. So that's a crime that was committed, and it's something she took responsibility for and so on. But
so you're saying that the folks out there are incorrectly linking that crime, that robbery and that murder to the Weather Underground?
No, that was not the Weather Underground. But Kathy was involved in it. David Gilbert was involved in it. And David's still in prison.
There was a movie out there called Running on Empty. I have a number of folks that want me to ask this question. They said it seems to be based loosely on your life. First of all, was it, and did you provide any assistance to that movie?
No, I was underground when it came out, I think, as I remember it. But it wasn't based on my life, but it was, and I remember seeing it at the time. it was a story of a group of people who were opposed to the war, I think, and then it got more and more militant and eventually went underground. But no, it wasn't really about my life at all.
You know, I have a very good friend who's my business partner, and our attorneys, and we have a whole bunch of folks that tend to be much more left and more liberal than I am. But we find that there are common grounds that we all say work for us and that really unite us. If you were to reach out to our audience, knowing full well that I'm probably more libertarian and you're more liberal, what would you say are maybe 2 or 3 things that would likely unite both you and me, or you and the right, if you will?
Well, I actually think that most Americans actually buy into a lot of the same values, those of us on the left and those of us on the right. Among those are a belief in